All right. Got our preliminary page here. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Excuse me. Working on page 24. This is a 9-panel grid, so we've got a lot of drawing that's going to go into this page. And this scene really is for kind of just showing off Krakus. Hey, Dennis, good to see you. Thanks again for sharing the listing, the announcement. But yeah, and this is actually like there's no uh, major dialogue. We just have a couple of speech balloons throughout, and then just a lot of sound effecty visual bits that go through, like winner, winner, winner is just repeated over and over again throughout. And then we have Krakus and Poseidon hurling by a dumpster. But yeah, basically he wins at cards. That's the first one. And it's just eyes are glowing, and then they're drinking they're sharing kind of like a Betty Veronica shot, though, of like Krakus and Poseidon drinking out of like a scorpion bowl. We'll put like a little fish in here. Then winning it, of course, I'm not looking forward to drawing this panel because a slot machine is tough to draw. So that one's going to be tough. This is them just drinking more. This is him winning it. This is shots. This is Scorpion Bowl. He's got a mixed drink here. Winning at bingo. They're going to be playing bingo against a bunch of old people and winning, being happy about beating the old people. And then they're doing Boilermakers, dropping the shot into the beer glass, and then they're immediately vomiting in the next panel. And then he's wiping his face, which it's not really his face, but for some reason there's barf on that part of him. So, hey Brian. Hey Carla, how are you? No Colonel Feathers on this page, but he'll be coming up soon, I think on 26. So I'll show off the finished page that we started last stream. For anybody that didn't catch the post, this is the page we started, and this is after the panel where the correlator dives. He comes up in front of Undersea Hero, and then you see his feet, and Undersea Hero is looking up at him, and then the next thing you see is the shell piece because he's lowering. He's like slowly lowering in front of him, and then we have them squaring off, and then you see the grumble. Hey, Brandon. And then you see the correlator cracking Undersea Hero in the face with liquid lead going, oh no! There'll be a big sound effect put behind him, like I forget what it is. I think it's kapow. Goes behind the two of them. That's why there's this extra space here. But there's no words in this This is called a 3-panel progression. This is a structural storytelling device that's used by a lot of cartoonists, and it's a lot of beginning, middle, and end. It's a natural progression. They use it in music. They use it in all sorts of art forms. It's not exclusive to comics, but the way it's used in comics is unique. And on this page, we just want to have fun with it. Some of the panels are going to be trickier than others. Like in this one, we want our vanishing point to be like right here, like in this guy's stomach. And then that's going to be extended. The grid will extend out over the table where the cards are falling. So that's kind of a tricky bit. He's like wringing his hands like, oh, I'm so excited to be partying with Poseidon. This panel, like I said, with the machine will be difficult. And then, of course, the wide shots and small panels are always tough. I think in this case, the horizon line is going to be higher. It's going to be above. It's going to be in the top third, probably right here. And our vanishing points will be here. And then there will be 2 off camera. There will be one probably over here, one over here. It might not be that high. It might be right here. It might be there. Um, and then here's the wide shot, which we're going to turn the camera because these shots are perpendicular. And then this shot is going to be tilted so that it seems out of place. So the ground will be tilted so that you have a little bit of a feeling of disorientation. Randy, on page 9, that's awesome, man. We can get to drawing. I'll share some. I went to my storage unit and I have been working on organizing my comic collection. So like, that's where I found that copy of the Tick TMNT crossover, unofficial, of course. We'll start up here. We'll start Jack Kirby style, upper left. One of the things that I've been really focusing on with my work lately is just the phrase, does it read? And what I mean by that is does the drawing, I'm trying not to get as hung up as I do on too much detail or too much form. Does it read? Like, does it tell the story like I want it to? Does it cover what I need it to cover? And is it intelligible? Like, could someone else looking at this picture know what's going on? And that's really difficult. I on Undersea Hero with the panels, I don't measure anything. I eyeball the whole thing. All the panels are crooked anyway, and that's intentional because it's supposed to have like, I don't want a hard edge on anything. I want there to be a liquid feel as you go through. So I haven't had to draw Krakus in a hot minute, so it might take me a couple panels to get him down. The fun thing about Krakus, drawing Krakus, is that the arms are always doing something. So like that's part of the fun, is trying to come up with like, what is he doing all the time? We got to get our proportions correct. We got to shrink our guy a little bit because he's a little further away. I think we can raise that hand a little bit. Sorry, I had to move stuff off of my chair. It's a bit of a long day today, working on some big projects over at the Steamship Authority. They put out an annual report publication every year, and I'm working on that right now. Hey, no worries. Thanks for coming by, Dennis. Have a good night. There we go. With the angle the camera's at right now, it's easier for me to sit like this. Now, when you're drawing Krakus's semi-profile, it's kind of tough to get the eyes correct. He's usually holding a drink of some kind. People usually assume it's always a martini. He likes to rotate some when he's out and about. When he's at home, he'll make himself a martini, but he's out and about and somebody else is doing the work of making the beverages, he will accept other beverages. I think this is, and we joke, this is a joke, again, not something that people are going to notice, but this is just a Mai Tai with like a really terrible straw. I'll have a Mai Tai, twice a year. It's got to be at the right place, though. Got to be having it with some egg rolls or something, some Polynesian food. The other fun thing about Krakus is you can be as expressive as you want with the eyes. And one thing that I recommend to people if they're trying to draw Krakus at home is that if he's not facing the camera directly, where his eyes are straight on or close to straight on, I always draw the eye, the forward one, just a little bigger than it should be. and that gives it like a nice playfulness to it. And if you're new to drawing facial expressions, um, an old artist trick is to just keep a mirror around and then make silly faces and try to draw them. I know I've done that a zillion times. I haven't done it in a little while. It would be a good refresher for me, especially since I'm doing more silly cartoons lately. One bit of advice I like to give is you don't want your lines to be reacting to things that aren't in the scene. So, for example, we're drawing Krakus being cropped by the edge of the panel here, and it's a very intentional crop, meaning that like I want it here for a reason, and the reason is to see what he's doing, and it's at an intentional breaking point. Like it doesn't look arbitrary. Like where his arm is right here, I don't want his arms or the lines depicting his arms being reactive to the panel border, meaning, am I trying to squish it because the panel border's there? You need to make it look intentional, so you got to plan to either have it be far enough away from a panel border for it to be how it's supposed to be drawn, or you have to move it the other way and crop it so it looks like an intentional break. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Intentional breaks are a big part of what I try to talk about with um, storytelling and making comics because people say, "Oh, work on your storytelling, work on." They'll give you these general broad terms, um, and breaks either of characters or of anatomy, like where lines cross one another, are just so critical to drawing the structure of something or depicting something filling a space that I like to be specific about that when I'm talking to people who want to talk about how I make comics and maybe how that can help them make comics. And people do things differently, but I think kind of universal. If you look at your comic collection, if you look at the really good artists, they know where the panel borders are. They're not just drawing a box around something that they drew. There's an intent behind where the placement is, where the figure is, how the characters are juxtaposed with one another, proportionality, direction. It's all meant to serve the greater piece. I actually think, because in the thumbnail I have it, actually, yeah, no, it's correct here. Because this is the back of his hand, and we're actually going to see like a few little suction cups in the front. So you're getting that dynamic of seeing both sides, and you have this visual identifying marker with this break right here that's going to give you more depth, that's going to give you more layering. It's one of the reasons why when I design capes, like capes are a great example. They're a wonderful visual storyteller enhancer. They're great at giving you physics. Like you can show someone moving and the cape moves. Hair is another good one. We did it on the last page here. His hair is moving for a reason. As his head comes down, his hair is moving for a reason. They're all going in directions specifically to show motion. And if you have a cape that's one color on one side and one color on the other, it's a lot easier for someone to know and to see when the cape is moving. They can see both sides of it. He's dropping his cards, and it's going to show that he has, four aces. I'm going to draw the diamond, the heart. We'll make the club, over here, and then the big spade. And put like your classic little glow around it so that it's cartoony, fun. There's the edge of the table. I think we actually need to raise up the edge of the table just a little bit. Just a hair from our thumbnail. And then now we can better draw our dealer, who looks, he's dressed exactly the same as earlier, our wait staff. They're all wearing just like your classic college party toga. Hey, Jonathan. Good to see you. Another Wednesday evening is upon us. Now we want this hand coming forward. I don't want it to be like a distracting foreshortening because it's not in the foreground. Like, we're not going to draw his hand like real big, because then the proportions of that hand would conflict with Krakus. So what we do is we just have it foreshortened, but you have the anatomy overlap. You just draw the shapes to fit in. Got my tea. It's the Stash brand licorice spice. It's like anise flavor. It's very nice. It's a great after dinner tea with just a little bit of honey. I'm actually going to move this hand over a little bit because, like I said, we want to make sure we know where the side of the panel is. And in this case, I can have an intentional crop and an account. So that makes it even more visually aware that, or obvious that I'm accounting for where the border is and I know where it is, because this thumb isn't breaking it. It's in front of the body. Here's where the shoulder connects to the pec. Even just for a silly little cartoon guy in the background, you gotta try to have the proportions kind of correct. But like I said, as long as it reads, I'm letting go on some of that finish that I would obsess over, that honestly was not my strong suit. My strong suit is panel to panel storytelling. That's my strong suit. So I'm going to lean in that direction. I'm still going to have enough detail. It's still going to be my hand, so people might not even notice all that much. So, but some people do. There've been different like periods of my work where like I've focused on different things. Yes, next week is episode 100. So I've honestly haven't really had time to plan much as far as like big festivities go. So can you believe it? We've done 100 episodes. We've surpassed the original Star Trek series for a number of episodes. We've surpassed many a great television show with my silly PBS style drawing show. I don't know. I think I got to do this for like 20 years to catch up to like the Bob Rosses of the world. I don't know how many seasons he did. PBS drawing shows more the aura I'm going for with my drawing. I've got a few ideas for some better lighting and camera and stuff when I save up some money, but generally I want to keep the format the same. I'd love to have some more artist guests to show us their skills on live drawing, but people are busy, man. Everybody's got them bills to pay. All right, let's grab our HB lead. This is generally what I do at this point, is I'll knock off and grab part of the panel border just so that I could see it better. And then what we'll do is we'll come in. Can I set this so that you can see both the prelim and what I'm doing? There, now you can see both. There you go. It's easier to see. Got our dealer here. We want him to look happy, like in a congratulatory way, but in a like not too happy. And it's suspect, that he gets 4 aces, but he's partying with Poseidon. So we have a halo effect in the ink that we want to do here, and it gets cropped off to that point, then comes back into play down here. And then we black out this portion here, 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 and here. I wanted to add an extra layer of depth here by having like the decorative curtains go behind Krakus, but his hand's in front of it, so we're pushing back the background even further with our layering. For those of us that have to use the Adobe products on a regular basis, that's the layering. If you ever look at the number of layers on your piece that you're working on, I'm tending to think in that direction with while I'm penciling this, or while I was composing the shot. See, I'll shrink the back eye, even if it's exaggerated. Like it's cartooning, so I'm not trying to be illustrative or make it look like a photo of a cuttlefish, obviously, because to be fair, like Krakus doesn't really look like a cuttlefish. The head shape is all different. I can show off some of the comics I found in my storage unit if you'd like to see some. Some of them are fancy ones, some of them are not. Mostly mainstream stuff. I'll grab a few. I had a box. This book, I think, is a book that only I liked. Killraven, and this was a mini-series by Alan Davis and Mark Farmer. I thought it was terrific. And then there was a Joe Linsner one-shot from the Marvel Knights era. But this Alan Davis series, like the art in it is just spectacular. If you dig like Mad Max with more sci-fi and weirdness mixed in, and just the like breathtaking artwork of Alan Davis, like he's one of my favorite of all time, and it's just gorgeous. There's a creepy one for beautiful Frazetta Williamson, Jack Davis, Gray Morrow. Just one of those books that you see at shows and it's expensive, but the quality of the stories and the artwork in this first issue are just mind-blowing. Got Epic #1. One of, if not my favorite Frazetta painting is this 7 Romans cover. When you see it in person, it's just breathtaking. The Spirit #1. This was I got that at. It's a Basil Gogos cover painted over a Will Eisner layout from the Warren magazine years. And then what's on the back? Heavy Metal 1. So, and then last was the Rampaging Hulk #1 magazine, the Walt Simonson artwork in it. So that was some of what I dug out this weekend. That creepy one, you know, if you don't want to buy the original, which I would recommend doing, just because I keep finding more and more reasons why the reprints fail to capture the essence of the originals, um, between the print quality or the paper or the tactile or the smell or whatever. It's just it always comes up a little short. Even though there are beautiful ones out there, but if you can find an original that's beat up to hell and still readable, I would go highly recommend going that route. And to be honest, my pencils are getting looser, and I'm doing more drawing in the ink stage as of late. Everybody gets a necklace. Shoulder, arm coming forward, collarbone, collarbone. Always forget what it's called, that line in the neck when you turn your head. It's a tendon there, but I forget what the name of it is. If we have any doctors, nurses, etc., in the audience, they can remind me what it is. It's been a long time. He's happy in that, like, hey, yeah, kind of happy, where it's like, yeah. Like when a coworker you don't know very well or you can't remember their name asks you how your weekend was. You're like, yeah, it was good. The hand coming forward takes a lot of practice, so it's the kind of thing that, like, I would just recommend doing pages of hands. I've done it for years. I still do it to this day. I'll just take a day and draw nothing but hands, on my spare time, doing different stuff, gesturing, trying to get different emotions using, the knuckles, the tendons. Um, Tricep mostly obscured by the body at this angle. There we go. It's good tea. Just had an influx of people watching, so welcome aboard, everybody. We're penciling panel 1 on page 24 of Undersea Hero. We're going to be hopefully cranking out a couple of pages this week. If we can get to 30 soon, I would be real happy. I'm a little behind, so I'm sorry, everybody. But I did, like I said last time, I got some pages back from a person helping me with flats. So the coloring is moving forward. We're moving forward. We're doing the best we can. From this angle, you're not going to see the little tubes that stick out of the side of Krakus's head there. So I might add just like a little motion line there like that in the all black. Just do it in all white. again, it's not something that most people, as they're churning through this book, are going to notice, but um, something that I would hope that maybe on a reread, maybe on a off chance someone is taking it in, in small bites instead of binging it, maybe they'll grab onto some of those little things I put in here. My shorthand for the texture of Krakus is just a couple of little circles. So, like, if you're ever drawing like Krakus's arm, just like grabbing something, I don't, and great way for, like, let's say, Krakus is yellow. So for some reason you have a yellow background and he's grabbing something yellow in his hand. You're gonna know this is his hand by just a, the little texture bit. That's cartoonist shorthand. That's another old cartoonist technique. But like I said, our catchphrase of the week has been, does it read? So we're trying to make sure that our clarity is there more than, any bells and whistles. I saw there have been a couple of things going around lately that I'll comment on. I did do a post about one of them. I see more and more things being revealed as having been ghosted or drawn by someone else than who's in the credits. In a comic book, one of the most famous ones is Spidey 150. And for years, everybody just assumed that because it said Gil Kane in the credits, that Gil drew that comic book. He was the Spider-Man artist for a long time. It certainly had the trappings of a Gil Kane comic book. But a few years back, Joe Staten did an interview where he admitted he drew that whole comic book. He was an assistant at the time, and he just took a ton of Gil Kane drawings as reference and did a pastiche, or what you would like to call like a mimic comic book of Gil's artwork. And it's important story for the Clone Saga. If you remember that when I was a kid, that was a big deal. They retconned it to where that was where the clone showed up in Spider-Man, and for the rest of time it was the clone. um, and there's tons of instances where, like, people who shared studios, like Eric Larson and who's the inker, Al Gordon, they would pass pages back and forth, and wouldn't necessarily have them credited on everything, but it was credited on some things. Al inked, I think, the Savage Dragon Superman crossover, which, I mean, that's pretty cool. That's crazy. um, DC was like, hey, creator owned book, do you want to cross over with Superman? Unbelievable that this giant corporate comic that is like the foundational corporate comic wanted to team up at that point. Just a fascinating point in history. um, but yeah, and then I've always heard about people doing backgrounds. Like, I know an artist who did backgrounds for Jim Lee. I know an artist that did backgrounds for Tim Sale. There's certain artists that, like, have had assistants for different things. And Todd McFarlane's always claimed to have inked a couple of pages of Dark Knight Returns. um, I just would love a book dedicated to the uncredited. I've always credited flatters, anybody who's touched my books, letterers, flatters, people who don't get credit in other books. If somebody just had a creative idea or something, I will cite them or thank them however they wish to be listed. So But there's just so many stories about that that I think are fascinating. And like, when you see art by and one name, written by and then another name, it's not always just those two names working on a book, And I've fought to get credit on books that I didn't publish, and sometimes I've been successful, and sometimes I haven't. There are publishers who will not give credit for flatters. There are publishers who won't give credit, not even as like a color assisted color issue. It would be great, and I would take great solace in knowing that I was the impetus for an article like that, and I would be uncredited for it. I would be okay with that. But no, I mean, one of the most famous ones was a group of gentlemen who were the Krusty Bunkers, and then there was also the Tribe. The Krusty Bunkers was a group of artists that worked around in New York, near Neil Adams, at the time of like the Bronze Age in the '70s, and um, it was a rotating group of people. Some of them worked for Neil, some of them were just there, just whoever was in the room, and Ralph Reese was one, Terry Austin, um, Howard Chaykin did some work, in that regard. I think Bob Wycheck was in there. Was Bob McLeod in there too? Maybe I thought Bob McLeod worked at Marvel already, but I could be wrong. I thought he broke in as a production guy, but I could be wrong. Hello, Ethan. Good to see you. Hello, California. Always amazing to hear from so far away, or from just up the street. The internet, kids. The internet. And to be honest, once I get this here, black that out. And we need to show some chips on the table just so that it reads as a poker table. And that's about as tight as I would pencil it before I go in with my pens. We'll move on to the next one. And that's Krakus like wringing his hands like Mr. Burns. Like so. Now, from this angle, I determined that the front of Krakus's carapace or tube or whatever you want to call it, it's going to come forward just a little bit. Let's try to eyeball about where the eyes will be so they're not too crooked. And then here's where the hands will be. Maybe I can pull this a little further over. You can still see it. Move the lamps a little bit. And then in this panel, the silly cartoony bit is that he's got stars in his eyes. So he's like, oh my God, I'm so excited that I'm seeing stars. My winnings of greed and over there. I didn't want to go so far as to have like the dollar sign eyes, because it's more than that. For Krakus, it's not just about money; it's about the debauchery, the party itself, the event of the evening. Let's try to get these to be about the same size too. And with the way Krakus is designed is this right here, this little point. This is the shadow from the front of his top of his head, the ring on his head. So let's see if we can. Actually, it's going to have to be a little further this way. And this comes down. And it looks like he's wearing a little mask. So when you black it out, it looks kind of like Robin's mask. That's the shadow, the cast shadow. Looks like our line here is going uphill a little bit. So we're going to have to pull that back and pull that back. I actually think his hands need to be a little bigger. Maybe they even come up a little higher than in the picture there. All right, let's grab our pencil. Some people, they need to have their pencils like super tight and super perfect for when they ink, where they're basically tracing the line over. And one thing I learned about myself through the process of doing all this work and all these pages is that when I'm doing a mechanical process like that, I get bored. I lose interest, because I'm solving the same problem that I just solved. And to me, the problem solving is the exciting part. That's really like where I enjoy doing what I do. And once I've solved that problem, like even now, these are tighter than how I've been doing my thumbnails lately because this solves too many problems. There's not enough for me to do. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I get so lost in some of the minute details that don't do anything for the storytelling. What I really need is for it to be revealed to me as I'm working on it and to see the problem being solved. That's the exciting part. To me, it's not to me the exciting part is not the finished clean drawing. It's the act of making the drawing. And it's different for all people. Like some people absolutely adore that task and reward of like a really clean end piece. But to me, that's never been the fun part. This is the fun part, the chunking it out, the fighting through it, the getting the shapes to work. I mean, that's the fun part for me, figuring out all the little pieces, the planning stage. And if I spend too much time planning and there's nothing left to plan when I get to working on the page, I get bored. I'm just doing this real rough, real quick to make sure I have the right angle. for a long time, that was one of my hangups. It was like, it has to be clean and perfect, and it has to look like this, and it has to be like that. And, these were all hangups because I read them in books. I had professionals tell me these things. And the truth is if it's a good comic book, it doesn't matter how you get to the end point. There are certain things that I like having, like I like having a nice ink line, but even that, I'm just starting to let go of some of those hangups. Because that's what they are. I don't feel like for my creative process that they are necessarily requirements that I can adhere myself to anymore. And if a page takes too long, I'll get bored. So, like, I can't tell you how many times where I would be told to redraw a page, and it would just be agony, and it would lose all of its energy because I'd have to redraw the whole page. And that was more than once in my career. I'd say, hey, we don't like this page, even though we approved it in the layout stage and we approved it at the such and such stage. We've decided that once we've seen the whole book penciled, inked, and colored, we want to change this page. That happened more than once. At different companies, too. So it's not like it was one editor or anything. From this angle, the suction cups are just like little bowls. You draw a circle like this, and then you draw like a little, not quite a triangle, like a little arc like that. And then, you imagine that if the light's coming from this way, light like that. From this angle, you might see some of the lines from his other arms. So I'm gonna fudge a couple of those in there, but we can put a glimmer there, glimmer here. And this is a spot panel, so we'll pull in some lines that are pointing towards Krakus, like this. And we'll erase them outside the edge of the panel, but we'll show them here just, it's part of the process. And then I want to show a little bit more separation here, so I'll do a cast shadow coming from his arm in this direction. And then over here, we will put in just a little bit of a shadow there. And with Krakus's dots on his body, if you know anything about squid or octopi or cephalopods of the ocean, is they can, change color. So those dots don't ever have to be in the same place twice when you're drawing them. So if you draw them from one angle and you're like, oh, where did I draw the dots? You can just draw them wherever they look good in that picture, because he can constantly be changing color. So there's our first two panels. We've got the winning at poker penciled out with his Mai Tai. And then we got the wringing of his hands. And then now we're going to move on to panel 3, which is Krakus and Poseidon sharing a like a scorpion bowl kind of thing. I find those drinks ridiculous. I thought that would be a good like first buddies drink together picture. I'm not sure what. Oh, the next is the what you call it, the slot machine. So we might skip over that one because I would have to pull up some reference. But, let's see. So that's about, if we draw our rule of thirds, draw our tic-tac-toe board here, here. Let's go like this. Let's draw our tic-tac-toe board. This is just to help us get the proportions right. One head is going to take up most of this and then into that panel. And the eyes will be here. And the next one's underneath here, and it does barely crosses that plane. Like that. And then the bowl crosses both of those lines. Like that. And then here's, oh, I forgot that part of this panel until I started laying this out. Here's our scorpion bowl, and then we've got Krakus's tentacle on the bar right here. And then we've got Poseidon's hand on the bar right there. One straw, two straws, little hat. Oh yeah, no, it's got to be ridiculous. I can't say I've had a scorpion bowl this decade. If I'm being honest, I think it has been more than 10 years since I had a sugary scorpion bowl. Well, because if I'm out, usually at the place that would be serving that, I can get like a Mai Tai or like a Sing Tao or something. This line right here has also become an area of study for me, where on the head, I'll do a little quick mock-up. On the head, if we're drawing a head, here's our eye sockets. Here's where the nose is. Here's where that is. Right here, this line on both sides, it kind of denotes the point at which the planes change and the cheekbones wrap around. So it's kind of been informing my jawbone in a shorthand way. And it's a nice way when you're drawing, like, let's see, do we have another color here? Do this real quick in blue. Like if that's our face underneath, we can do our eyes, our nose, our mouth, and then, we have just our head around it. And as it turns, those lines move, and it informs, like if you look at it from above, it informs where the ears are, where the eyes are, etc. So like if we have the ear here and here, little chin, eyebrow, and then you populate your hair how you see fit. And then the neck comes out, like so. That's an ugly mock-up, but it explains what I'm looking at. when I'm looking at the head these days. And again, that's just a different line and a different approach to the skull. Like I've been drawing heads for, you know, decades, but I'm finding new ways to try to show the depth and the rigidity of the skull while still having the elasticity and the malleability of the meat that's on the outside of it. Let me just ballpark, just like we did on the other thing. I will put the eye socket. There's where the nose on the skull is. There's where the cheekbone will be, the big one on this side, and there will be a little one on that side. So that's where that line will be. The chin will be bisecting that portion. So, like, I will draw the pieces of the skull underneath if on this particular drawing I need a refresher because it's a different angle, it's a different type of head. It's a different character. I haven't drawn Poseidon since the last Krakus page. So, just a good refresher. Because I'm still going to go in and draw like a ridiculous, exaggerated expression. They're looking at each other with the, Betty and Veronica and Archie eyes like way open. And you're drawing a mouth that's over a straw. So it's like pursed. So that's going to push the muscles a bit. But he's smiling too. So you got to have the smile. And this line also helps when drawing expressions because right here where this line is, okay, that's showing me that if I'm drawing the meat that's getting pushed back, that's where the line of the smile is going to go. And it's going to push the cheek up a little bit and it's going to push on the eye a little bit. You imagine like a ball underneath the skin. That'll kind of give you the where the muscles go without having to know all of the muscles. Some artists just naturally are good with expressions. I with like a lot of my stuff, I had to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, and I'm still struggling, of course. And every day, I just try to get something new and something better. Because I go into every drawing, every project, knowing that there's going to be something I learn I'll translate and make the next project better. I think we need to widen the scorpion bowl some. And then what we'll do is again, we're thinking about depth. We're thinking about our layering. We're going to put Poseidon's hand in front of that bowl. So what that's going to say to us as a viewer is in front of this bowl, the bowl, and we'll do the same thing with Krakus's tentacle. We'll pull that forward. Tentacle, bowl, hand bowl, straw, which will be in the middle and will cause another break with the back of the bowl. And then there's going to be the face that's slightly in front of the body, mouth, eyes, hair. And then for this one, I think we left the background blank because we're going to have it be a flat tone. So this will probably be like 100% magenta. To get that just electric color. Trying not to squish my drawing here and still be able to draw in this portion. And the straw has to go like between his two tentacles, because if you know anything again about a cephalopod, is their mouth is not in the front; it's like between all the arms underneath. So I actually have the arms draping like this. But you can see our prelims that we've been working on, and then these are our pencils underneath. So I'm surprised I'm not falling asleep yet. So I'll take that as a win. All right, let's start with Krakus because we're most fresh with that thought process. Come up with the hood. Maybe that's what we should just call it, his hood. And then from this angle, you'll see a little bit of the little breathing apparatus. Drop that in. Lower it just a little bit so we know that it's take the other arm. We'll try to show some depth, and we'll show that it's open so that like you can tell that he is intentionally putting the straw like between his arms there. I think this is one of those panels where people will point to it and be like, "Are you sure this is the book you want to make?" Oh yeah. Like I said, I'll be very interested to see how people react to this book. Weirdness and all, but especially the weirdness. I mean, this is Krakus getting to party with the head of the undersea casino, so he's gonna take it up to 11, as they say. Why don't you just make 10 as loud as 11? Because it goes up to 11. Spinal Tap, one of the great comedic masterpieces. It's got like fruit floating in it usually, and there's ice. We'll put like some pineapple in it, cherries, some sliced stuff. Put like an orange slice on Poseidon's side. And for purely comedic essence, like how people make fun of Krakus's drinks underwater, we will put a sea creature in a drink underwater. We'll put a little fish in there. Remember The Simpsons, the at Duff Gardens, the beer aquarium featuring the happiest fish in the sea. Poseidon has like a kind of a round nose. I don't really like that mouth. Eraser. Blow that up. Just because where the nose is, we got to move it a little bit. We want it to be the eye's going to come forward a little bit. Bring that eyebrow up a little bit. That one over a little bit. See, at this point, I hadn't really gotten the Poseidon design down at all, and he's got like instead of this longer nose that I had started with, I went with a rounder nose. There it is. There's the first yawn of the evening. The eye socket. It's tough for me to not put my hand up there. Old habits. And then he actually has longer hair than this, I remember. You should probably grab an old page for reference, but I'll double check it before I ink it, of course. It is his laurels. Where's the laurels in his hair? Old Neptune here. And I come back to my motto: does it read? Does it do the shapes do their job in telling the story I'm trying to put forward? And I think so far they're doing okay. I'm sure when I ink it, I'll find some stuff to fix, but we're just trying to chunk out the space. Got to spend a little extra time on the hand because I think the pinky will be here, ring finger, middle finger, index finger. And like one of the dynamic ways to pose a hand is to, of course, have like not all the fingers flat or whatever, is to like, curl them a little bit or have one finger pointing. In this case, I think we want them tented, and those are kind of at an arc and they proportionately affect one another. And the middle finger is the longest. So I'm going to do that one first, something like that. Ring finger next. It's going to be short. Pinky. And then just for the fun of it, I'll have the index finger just bend a little extra. And it just gives you a more dynamic hand. You don't have it, all lined up. Even when you make a fist, like the fingers aren't lined up. There's a curve to them. They curl. Hello, Yaman. Thanks for popping in on my drawing stream. So far, we've gotten 3 panels penciled in here. It's 9:15. We got about 15 minutes left. Or we can just cut it. It's episode 99. We'll start on the next one. It's never a bad thing. All right. I'm going to draw that same, because it's a complex shot with like stuff happening, because we got Krakus excited, we've got Poseidon pulling the lever on the slot machine next to it, we got coins flying out of the slot machine, we've got it ringing. So there's a lot going on in this panel, even though it's just one little panel that people are going to just see what it is happening and move on to the next one. I don't think anyone's going to dwell on any of these 9 panels. They just have to move the story along. So like I said, I'll come back to the ye old tried and true statement of, does it read? So we'll get our tic-tac-toe board. It kind of gives us our proportions. It's like doing the old grid drawing in high school. This almost the very middle is where this hand is. So I think we got to pull this back, pull this down. Krakus is here. Bottom of his body comes here. And he's trying to catch the money. So his arms are, functioning like a basket. So we want it to look like he's trying to catch the money. And he's holding his cup. So like there's a lot going on in this panel, even though from like a body language standpoint. So our horizon is like right here, and the vanishing point's like way over here. So we're going to be able to pull our, I'm just going to eyeball it. Why the hell not? That gives us our basic grid for where our machines are going to be. Machines come here, and then they come down. We're actually going to have to pull that over a little bit. Hey, Yaman, I said your name. Yep. I think I did. Yeah. Thanks for popping in over on the YouTubes. We're here every Wednesday, so if you enjoy watching people make comics, That's what I do here. A big influx of people just pop in, so thanks for everybody for coming on board. Whatever brings you this far into the depths of the internet. I'm going to start with our boy Poseidon here. And what's going to be interesting is like you're going to have to see like part of his leg underneath there, and I got to get the proportion right to like here's where his hip will be, and then there's where the leg will be. Alrighty. Now, see, this smile, as opposed to this smile, is like yeah, this is my new pal. We've had a couple of drinks and we're having a good time. From where our vanishing point is and our horizon line, I don't think we have to do a whole lot of adjusting our figure. I think from there you'll see underneath his nose some, and you'll see underneath the cheekbone. But because of his big bushy beard, you're not going to see like under his jaw there. So our cheat that we're going to use here is actually seeing like the upper teeth from this angle, and we're going to pull from our vanishing point over here. I'm just going to draw a line like this. And then that's going to be the line that I use for the back of his teeth. You can see I simplify teeth quite a bit in my drawing. I'll draw chunks of teeth. I'll only draw individual teeth generally if they're characterized in a way that that's accentuated, whether they're crooked or they're some way. Telling us something about the character. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix this beard. It's not wavy enough, if I remember correctly. It was wavier. I'm gonna have to grab my reference. It's in the other room. And we continue the motif of the glowy bits. I forgot we need to have at least one here. This goes through all of the panels on this page, and then one right here, and it draws the eye down into it. That's right. That needs to be there. That's what happens when I'm going back into old thumbnails. Is I'm re-immersing myself, getting myself back into that headspace of when I drew this and was solving those problems, which is why I've just had more fun lately, leaving some of that problem solving to the final drawing. Excuse me. We might have to cut it early. I'm running out of gas quick. But I think we did pretty well tonight. I think we got, 3 solid panels penciled from the layout. There's our layout. There's our pencils. I've got to redraw this beard. And then I probably need to just redraw the hair. So we'll look at Ref Poseidon. We'll put that there. And yeah, here's that finished page again that we had done from last week. Be the same sort of inking style, of course. And yeah, I'll post it when the next one's done, and then we'll just keep right on churning. And I'm going as quick as I can. And thanks for popping in, and I hope to see everyone has a good weekend, and I hope to see folk next week for the episode 100. So we've been doing this crazy bit for 100 episodes as of the next one. So thank you all for joining me on this journey so far, and yeah, I hope we'll see you at the next stop. Good night, everybody.